Just days after the roadmap and with the hope of a brighter future, people who were told they had to shield say they feel forgotten. They're the people who were judged to be at greater risk of becoming seriously ill. The government now hopes shielding will be able to stop at the end of March. But two families have told us they're confused and not convinced. This from Alex Dunlop.
Oh dear, that's like him.
Why don't you paint another picture to show Alex?
Of course.
Good idea.
Eli, who's 6, has Down syndrome. He's shielded for 11 months at home near Norwich because he has low immunity and a heart condition. His parents have gone out of their way to keep him safe. But they've just had a letter from the NHS now saying that Eli no longer needs to shield.
Is he at the same risk now as he was a few weeks ago?
Presumably. There's no more information than that.
So perhaps he never needed to shield.
Perhaps he never did. I want things to be going back to normal for Eli, but I don't have the confidence that it's the right time to do it just yet. I feel that things are not at levels that I feel confident to just let him go back out into the world and see what happens.
I still try to keep to my daily walks.
Sammy in South Norfolk is more concerned than confused. She has cystic fibrosis. Like thousands of others in the region at high risk, Sammy stays at home and only goes out to exercise or for medical needs. The good news is she's had her first vaccination.
I've just seen the writing on your T-shirt.
Yes, vaccinated.
Her second COVID jab isn't until late April. But in its roadmap out of lockdown, the government's just said it anticipates it will no longer be necessary to advise shielding beyond the end of March.
I think a few people will have had their second vaccination by then, but I do feel that us shielders have been slightly left behind. There's been nothing off the government sort of directly at us, which, I think is quite a shame. My life won't change until 3 weeks after I've had my second vaccine.
And now fresh research of the disease has prompted scientists to add even more people to the list of high-risk patients. Until last week, 154,399 vulnerable people were shielding across Essex, Suffolk and Norfolk. But that figure has risen to nearly 216,000 after changes to the way people are classified.
This new way is a much more holistic way of looking at risk that includes a lot of other factors such as your body mass index, your ethnicity, whether or not you lived in the deprived area, and your gender. And so you get a better understanding of the risk of disease.
With more vaccinations will of course come greater protection for all. But come April, Sammy and Eli's walk out of shielding will be cautious and at their own pace. Alex Dunlop, BBC LookEast.
Well, let's talk to Dr. Nigat Arif, GP in this region. What are you telling your patients who are on that vulnerable list?
So the message is still the same. So the patients that are still getting letters saying that they need to remain shielded should remain shielded. Those that are getting letters that don't need to remain shielded, that has to be explained a little bit more. And I can do that from a personal experience as myself. My son has had a liver transplant. He was one of the 2.3 million originally under the first lockdown. I ended up getting a letter saying that you need to be shielded, obviously because he has had a transplant, he's on a medication. And now recently we've got a letter to say that he doesn't. There's a number of factors why that has come about. Mainly it's because we are still learning on how to keep our most vulnerable safe and who needs to be shielded, who doesn't, changes based on the number of people who are dying from COVID. And that is the most important thing. You can get COVID, but actually not get a lot of complications from it. That's a separate aspect. You can get COVID and have severe disease and therefore risk hospitalization. And therefore, unfortunately, those are the people that are going to later on die. And it was trying to protect those individuals. Now, that has to have to be reassessed again under a new model. And that was from research that was done in Oxford. So nationally, 1.7 million people have been added now to the shielding list. And as you were hearing earlier, that's based on ethnicity, areas of deprivation, and not just based on your health statistics. So the advice is changing. But at the minute, what I'm saying to my patients that they are coming in is that I have to treat you as an individual case. If you feel slightly cautious about coming out of shielding, that's absolutely fine. I'll respect your wishes. But we're in this amazing place at the minute, Stuart, that we have testing, rapid flow testing, which is happening, and the vaccination program. 18 million people nationally have been vaccinated. So we know that we are getting through those groups and forming that immunity within our communities.
Well, that's a very full answer. Thank you very much indeed. I've got a question from Sarah. She says, I've been told to continue shielding, but my children are now being told to go to school on the 8th of March. This seems to be in conflict. Is that right?
Well, so those that are being asked to shield, they can do. The thing with children is that we've realised is that actually they're not that badly affected. Now, children who are going to school, depending on what school they're going to, they are going to be tested for COVID-19, and therefore we are able to isolate quicker and keep those safe. Individuals that are living with shielded individuals, they are also going to be vaccinated as well. So if you've got the vaccine and you've had the first jab, that does give me as a GP a bit of sigh of relief, because that gives you between 80 and 90%, even just with the one jab of immunity. So to all my shielders, please take up the jab, because that will keep you protected.
Have people got a phobia? Will people have phobias about coming out, if they have been shielding for so long, coming out of lockdown?
This is a fantastic question, and something that I'm getting a lot of, because we know under the subsequent lockdowns and also the shielded group being given so much propaganda, the right propaganda and health message to say, stay at home, keep washing your hands. There are phobias. People are scared to go out, and that's completely understandable, because our whole drive has been to be keeping them protected so that we can make sure that if they needed to go into hospital, that the pressure wasn't on the NHS and we had the resources to look after them. And therefore, the shielded groups, and actually it was really saddening for me to hear earlier that they said that they felt forgotten, because I was in that group with my son, and there were times when the messages weren't coming through from the Department of Health, and it did feel that they wasn't the right message at the right time and what they should be doing. But we're in the middle of a pandemic and we're learning, and what I say to individuals is that there's a lot of support out there for mental health. There's the 1U, there's the app, there's psychological services that you can self-refer to. And so don't panic. There is light at the end of the tunnel.
Listen, it's lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for all your helpful advice. That's terrific. On to the latest coronavirus figures now. 33 more deaths have been reported by our hospitals in the past